Today we're going to talk about top 10 tips to decrease crowding and length of stay for dogs. This does also apply to cats, rabbits, many of these things you can use for guinea pigs, snakes, whatever you're housing. My name is Sarah Aguilar. I am, there we go. I'm currently the director for Santa Barbara County Animal Services. Whenever I say that, I feel like I have to follow it with an explanation that we are not all wealthy. Santa Barbara County is not just Harry and Meghan and Ellen and Oprah. We have about a 20% poverty rate in our county. The majority of our county is rural, agricultural. We have lots of national forests. We've got a big variety of things, so I have to explain all of that. We're going to be talking about a couple tips. They may seem very basic. If you are not doing them, I encourage you to stop being innovative and just go back to doing these basics. We all know that the longer an animal stays in your facility, in your care, the more likely it is to mentally and physically deteriorate. The larger your shelter population becomes. And most importantly, warehousing, overcrowding, and unmanageable numbers of animals are one of the key arguments against no-kill. And hopefully, there's something in here that you can take home to remove that from being an argumentative point for naysayers in your community. It's super important that you understand length of stay. And today I'm going to encourage you to sort of let go of whatever preconceived notions you have, whatever beliefs you have that, sorry, let me pause. Okay, so let's talk about rethinking. So rethinking is the ability to question and change your beliefs, your opinions, or your approaches when you are faced with new evidence or changing circumstances. And mastering rethinking is important because it enables us to change. So the goal of this talk is to decrease length of stay and overcrowding, and it means that you're here seeking a different result than what you're getting right now. So I encourage you to let things go, to listen to the proven strategies that hundreds and hundreds of organizations are using without holding on to that past and what you've been doing. When I used to work in restaurants, there was this thing we would always say that if you always do what you've always done, you always get what you've always got. So I encourage you to take something away today that's different. It's impossible to know how to decrease your length of stay if you don't know where you're starting. So right here, you've got 3 dogs that are in my agency. They all have 30-day length of stay. However, they all have very different experiences. The first dog is 10 days in the shelter, 20 days in foster. The second dog is 30 days in shelter, no days in foster. And the third one is 29 days in the shelter, 1 day in foster. What questions do we have when we look at this? What approaches do we need? They're different for each animal. Knowing your data is more important than it being fancy. Whether you have a Google sheet, an automated email report, maybe you just print something out and you post it on a wall that people can see. The most important thing is that you, your team, your volunteers know the information and can access it. Here on the left side, you've got a very fancy spreadsheet that has lots of data, it automatically updates. On the right-hand side, you have the first thing that I used when sharing length of stay data. I can't believe I still have a picture of it, but this was about 10 years ago. We printed out, here's the top 20 longest stay dogs in our shelter. This was in Ventura County. Where are they, how many days? And that first top dog, 516 days in our shelter. And shortly after we started talking about long stays, he went on a trip, an overnight trip, and lots of media and lots of marketing material, and he was adopted shortly after. The second tip is to evaluate your barriers and eliminate them. This sheet here was created, I worked at Greater Good Charities for about a year during the Stay Home and Foster campaign at early COVID. And we came up with this sheet as a way to sort of identify what barriers people had in place. And the goal is that you get as close to that straight line at the bottom as possible from somebody's interested in action to actually doing the action without all of the steps. And the farther away you go from that straight line, the longer it's taking, the more barriers are in place. So doing reference checks, background checks, vet checks, landlord checks didn't actually get you any closer to saving the animal's life. This one here, you don't have to know what all of that data is. It's very small, I'm sure. But this is another tool to evaluate barriers. This is about cats. Yes, I know the presentation's about dogs, but this is cats. And what this organization did is they looked at all the cats that are in their facility, in their care, and what they thought the barrier to that cat getting placed in a home was. Is it medical? Is it behavior? And so the pie chart is actually more important. The pie chart shows 54% of the cats in their care had normal delays, which to me I thought, well, what the heck are normal delays? Like that means, to me that was like process problems, right? But the other half, you see things like they have FELV. They've got diabetes, different medical conditions and things. So you don't have to have something this fancy, but the result of looking at what does each animal need to keep moving is very useful. Tip 3, increase accessibility. The first part of accessibility is your hours. I pulled this off of a couple of websites about 3 weeks ago. So these are current. My favorite is 8:30 to 4, Monday through Friday, appointments recommended. I don't know very many people who can make that work to get a dog or a cat. The next part of increasing access is your spaces. These are 2 pictures from Pima Animal Care, actually, in Tucson, where they've got cats, again with the cats, sorry. But they've got cats that have medical conditions that normally we would lock away, we would put in isolation, we wouldn't have the public accessing them. One is the fungal jungle, which is ringworm cats. And the other is adoptable kitties with colds. And what you also notice about adoptable kitties with colds is that the door is propped open. Because when your public sees a door, they think, I probably shouldn't go in there. They don't want me in there. There's some reason why we're keeping people out of spaces or keeping animals in spaces. So making sure that all of your potential adopters can see all of your animals that are available is really important. For those of you that have concerns about public interacting with ringworm cats, I encourage you to also look at Austin Pets Alive, where they have an entire facility, an entire building that's just ringworm cats that is open to the public. The next part of increasing your access is your online visibility. Is there anybody that's here from Thurston County, Washington? Okay, so Thurston County, Washington, it's like Tacoma, Olympia area. They have an amazing website. They have tons of information on there. You can't see it in this little snippet here, but the very top section is a nice, what do you call that? The thing that slides through, the banner that has Petco Love Lost. Right below that is all of our adoptable pets. I'm going to show you a video. It's going to seem like it's real jittery and it moves very quickly. This is me actually scrolling on my phone, looking for their hours and their address. And I hope it plays. All right. So here's this online banner. It's great. Adoptable animals, you can't really see part of it but all the available pets, that's excellent. News and events. Donate, we all need money. Donate is at the top, lost and found, volunteering, surrendering a pet, spay and neuter, available pets again, licensing, forms and info. I bet it's in forms and info. All right, applications and forms, laws, information. Oh, the animal shelter. I bet that's, oh no, that's a form. All right, let's go back up. It's not in here. It's not at the bottom there. We'll go back up to the top to the menu. And let's try get involved. Well, that's not it. That just says I should do something. All right, let's try about. Well, that doesn't have hours, but it has JASCOM. What's JASCOM? Oh, that's the Joint Animal Services Commission and their strategic plan. So that's not it. I guess let's try contact. Oh, there's their hours. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Email them. Instruction, directions. Ah, there's their address. All right. So that's like a 2.5-minute journey. Now, for some people, contact us may have made sense. That may have been the first place you went. That's not how my brain works, though. I say this not to disparage them. This organization is doing great stuff. They're doing amazing enforcement work. They just busted a huge cockfighting breeding facility. But I encourage you to have somebody else who's not in your agency look at your website and say, hey, can you tell me, let's see how long it takes you to find our hours. Let's see how long it takes you to find our address. Let's see how long it takes you to find available pets, or how to foster, or different, just come up with different things and ask folks who aren't in your industry, who aren't in your agency, to find that for you. Oh, now it's just gonna play again. Okay. Tip 4 is pathway planning. I'm sure that I saw at least 3 other presentations during this conference related to pathway planning. We're not going to talk a ton about it here, but it is important to your process, to reducing length of stay, is moving animals as quickly as possible through the checkpoints that they need and out of the system to where, to appropriate outcomes. So common pathways are return to field, return to owner, transfer, adoption, transport, euthanasia. Common critical flow-through points on those journeys are intake, vaccines, exam, picture, microchip flea control, spay and neuter, behavior modification, medical treatments, adoption, foster. To keep animals moving through those pathways, it's important to know where they're going, where they're headed to, what they need, and to make sure that you have the appropriate resources available when they get to each step. One of the best things about pathway planning is fast tracking. So this little dog here, probably not going to be in the shelter very long, right? It might look a little rough right now, but it's a cute, fluffy little dog. This picture indicates to me it's friendly, it's handleable. It is not going to be here very long. Why am I going to put any kind of a behavior evaluation, medical hold? Why would we create more challenges to moving that animal out? So if your intake team or whoever is doing first touches on animals when they come into your system can identify this is highly adoptable, have a way for them to fast track it immediately to the adoption floor. If you're an agency that doesn't have a shelter, fast track it to your wait list of adopters. Another part of pathway planning that helps move animals through quickly is a reservation process or a commitment to adopt or a pre-adopt. It goes by different names. I know, again, cats, sorry. But having a way that people can say, I'm going to adopt this animal the day it's available while it's on its stray hold. That ensures that that animal is going to leave the very first possible day that it can. Some places will charge the adoption fee at that time when the person makes the reservation or the commitment. And then they have a whole process for what to do if the animal gets returned to its family. Other folks, they don't have that. They say, we'll call you, come and pick it up and pay at that time. If you don't come within 24 hours, then it's available to the next person. Review your hold period. So this might be a little bit tough to read. California has some complicated laws around holds. So this particular sheet here, this came from Shelter Pals, which is run by the Sacramento SPCA. And it tells you exactly what the holding period is for different situations and what law is related to that. I encourage you to look at whatever the ordinances are in your area and understand them and make sure that you're using the minimum mandated hold. And then do it with data. So one of the things that happened at my agency before I got there is they had a 5-day hold for strays with no identification and 10 days for strays with identification. And they actually pulled data. Data is my favorite thing. And they said after 5 days, the return rate, the reclaim rate, dropped significantly. And we're forcing animals to sit here for 5 extra days for no reason. It's not increasing their likelihood of going home. And so they reduced the hold for pets with identification from 10 days to 5. And it's made a huge difference. Our shelter is one of the few that I know of in the state of California that's open admission and is not full. I should have probably said that at the beginning, so you all took me a little more seriously, but it's all of these things, right? So knowing what your holds are and not forcing animals to stay in your facilities beyond their hold. Tip 6 is daily rounds. This QR code here, we will revisit. It is not a quiz. It is not a survey. It's going to take you to a Google Drive. And we're going to see this QR code again later. But it's going to take you to a Google Drive that has some resources. One of the things is a daily rounds SOP that you can adopt, download it, edit it, make it appropriate for your facility. But doing daily rounds helps you with the pathway planning. Where on that crazy squiggle line is each animal? What is their next step to getting out of the facility? Sometimes it's a better picture. It might be a playgroup evaluation. It might be spay or neuter. It might be a cosmetic procedure such as cherry eye. It might be that they need to move to a different kennel. You may notice that a particular, having a dark colored dog in a kennel that doesn't have good light might be impacting their length of stay. The other thing about daily rounds is you also get to couple that with like facility checklists, like, are my guillotines broken? Does the light bulb need to be replaced? Is a drain backing up? Tip 7, foster. In the words of my famous friend Jill, foster is my favorite F word. I would love to take credit for that, but that's all Jill. This is the biggest factor in my shelter not being full. This is 2023 and 2024 data. We had 5,000 foster placements for dogs. We take in 6,000 animals. That sounds crazy. I don't even have 5,000 dogs. So what is, this data is great. It looks really good for donors. But it doesn't really mean anything for the shelter, for the team. Like what is, how is that even possible? What does that mean? So it is important that you drill down into data to a level that is useful. This is the types of foster. So if you have chameleon, it's the subtype. And so you see the biggest increase is in dog day trips in 2024. So even if you take out day trips, because you go, well, that's not really foster, there's still 3,200 foster placements in 2024. Even if you take out foster to adopt, because that's not really foster, that's like, it's an adoption that's pending spay neuter typically. There's still 2,200 foster placements. So if you don't have a foster program, I highly encourage you to start one. If you're a foster-based organization, this is gonna look a little different because everything's in foster. So that's not necessarily gonna be your biggest way to move animals out of your system, but it might be how you increase your capacity, is recruiting more fosters. And foster is so important that there was a study done recently by Dr. Gunther, if any of y'all have heard of her. And foster increased dogs' likelihood of adoption by 5 times for brief outings and over 14 times for overnights and foster stays. That's huge. Tip 8 is marketing. One of my friends and mentors, Kristen Hassan, does this all the time, where she goes to a facility and she looks at their longest stay dogs, and then she goes to their social media and audits it and says, when's the last time that this dog was posted? How many times has this dog been posted? What were you talking about in those posts? What photos were you using? Is there a video? Have you shown the dog with a person? Have you shown the dog with another dog? Have you shown the dog on a couch, on a bed, in a home, in a car? And found that most of the time, your hidden gems, the dogs that are long stays and you can't figure out why, haven't been on your social media for a long time. They've sort of just become a fixture in your organization. And you think, oh, we had to have posted them. Sure, 8 months ago. So I encourage you to do that audit of your own. Another piece of marketing, this QR code is going to take you back to that same Google Drive. It's not a new QR code. Is creating like a long stay task force or having a marketing checklist. This here is built off of Jacksonville Humane Society. They created a volunteer long stay task force, and they came up with checklists. Have these things been done by 30 days? Have these things been done by 60 days? Have these things been done by 90 days? You don't have to wait till 30, 60, 90 days to do them. You could do them all in the first week. It's a lot, but you could. So again, I encourage you to take this, adapt it, to your agency. There's some things on here you might not have that we'll talk a little bit about, like dog of the day or doing a Saturday 30-day party. This QR code is a different QR code. This QR code will take you to Maddie's University and a free class called Using Social Media to Help Shelter Pets Shine. If you are not on Maddie's University, they have a huge range of free courses that you can take. Tip 9 is promotions. So this little screen grab here was from the Humane Society of Huron Valley in Ann Arbor, Michigan, from 2012. And you see the first column of numbers is 2011 numbers, the second column is 2012. And they calculated the cost per day to house an animal. And I regularly argue this point with my fiscal team, and I tell them that waiving fees costs less than housing animals. They don't love that. So I have to have data. I have to show them. So at this cost, which again is 13 years ago, it takes 4 days of housing to equal what we're charging for an adoption fee. So that means on the 5th day, I'm losing money. Some of our animals, they haven't even gotten through their hold yet. So this is very important. If you have a way to break this down, if you have access to this information, I encourage you to use it if you need to make a case for waiving fees or running promotions. And the way that they did it here, it actually enables you to break out just the direct cost, because I have utilities whether there's animals there or not. I have staff whether there's animals there or not. But I don't necessarily spend food on animals that aren't there, right? Okay. So in that Google Drive, you also have another PowerPoint in there called Thinking Outside of the Kennel. This is a presentation that I did that's literally just lists like 30 adoption ideas, promotion ideas. I think we're all doing like $14 Valentine's Day and $17 St. Patrick's, $31 for Halloween. Like, there's some that we do regularly kind of across the whole industry. But in this presentation, there's a whole bunch of just examples of other things that organizations are doing. So we get back to what we were talking about briefly before, dog of the day. This volunteer, Fred, for the last several years of his life, would come to the shelter and pick a dog, and he would sit in the lobby with it. Every day. So that when people walk in, the first thing they see is Fred and dog of the day. And sometimes it was a cute little dog, and sometimes it was a big, cute dog. But what an amazing way to highlight one of your gems. A dog that is friendly, that you don't know why it's there. Why is this dog still here? So that it's the first thing people see when they come in before they get overwhelmed. And there's a person there to talk to them about that dog and share its personality. Another really easy thing to do that's part of promotions is what's on your kennels. Are you drawing attention to particular kennels, either by decorating them or having special signs on them? We have volunteers that come through and decorate for all of the holidays, and I adore them for it. And I always ask that we try to put extra stuff on one of our longer stay dogs. And then making sure that your signage tells about the dog that you don't see, because he's in the kennel. So this was Lightning. Lightning was super barrier reactive. He had a terrible kennel presence. And so we made him a sign that said, outside my kennel, I'm a relaxed, playful, belly rub loving fool, with a picture that showed him that way. A couple of other promotions that I really like are doing adoption events at unusual places. So breweries, car dealerships, retail or resale stores. And one of my favorites is doing a one-dog adoption event. So picking one dog and holding an entire event around that one dog. And that can be in your facility, it could be outside somewhere. And maybe Lily isn't gonna find a home that day, but it will bring people in who will hopefully take other animals. All right, we're already at the 10th tip, you guys. Focus groups. This is a super heavy, text-heavy slide, I'm so sorry. But one of the things we're launching in my facility is focus groups for our volunteers. So if you think about one of the main causes of overwhelm and burnout that we have is we're trying to help all the animals all the time. And our volunteers and our fosters and our community feel that also. I can't tell you how many times I've had a volunteer stay longer than staff because they just got to help that one more dog. They got to do that one more thing. So by helping them zero in on a specific segment of your population, helps reduce that burnout. But additionally, it actually makes them more productive and impactful. We see this with urgent dog teams. If you have a group of folks that talk about your most urgent dogs, they're all coming together and putting their energy into maybe the 5 hardest dogs in your facility, the 5 that are most at risk for euthanasia. But what if you put all that energy into the 120 dogs that weren't at that point and you got them out of your facility before they became urgent dogs? So by helping volunteers sort of figure out what they love and focus their energy there, you actually help them refill their cup. And they feel the impact, and they feel really purposeful, and they know what they're accomplishing instead of just looking at the endless stream of dogs coming in. So this is just a bunch of examples of things I've seen at different shelters. Long Stay Task Force, we sort of talked about. Yellow is my sunshine, which is related to handling color in the shelter, yellow dogs. Shy Dog Society, social media specialists. So some of these are very, you can tell by looking at them what kind of animals those folks would be helping, or how they would be helping your facility by focusing on marketing or researching lost and found pets. But there's also a couple that maybe not, like Goodnight Moon is folks that just come in and do final walkthroughs and make sure that animals have what they need at the end of the night. Do they have a clean blanket? Do they have a chew toy? Do they have fresh water? Did we pick up poop before we lock them in? So I encourage you to pick some, engage with your volunteers, identify what areas volunteers want to work in, and build groups around them. So I'll just end by saying, pick something and pilot it, whatever it is. And don't just think about it and say, oh man, when I get back to work on Monday, or tomorrow, or tonight, I'm gonna start a foster program, or I'm gonna start a volunteer group. What I want you to actually do is write it down and figure out, what does success look like? If I can launch this program and it's successful, what does that look like? Because that becomes your motivation for doing it. Which animals are involved? Is it all the dogs over 30 days? Is it all the dogs over 80 pounds? Is it the dogs at a certain facility? Is it the dogs with a certain foster? What resources do you need? Do you need SOPs? Do you need cameras? Do you need printer? Do you need money? Do you need a location? What is it that you need? What help will you engage? Who's going to help you? Who do you need? Do you need somebody that's a photographer? Do you need somebody that's a writer? Do you need somebody that owns a business? Do you need somebody who has a car that can transport? And when is it due by? Give yourself a deadline. I work great under deadlines. I work really poorly without deadlines. If I could have, I probably would have written this presentation this morning. And it probably would have been better. But doing that work actually makes it more actionable. It turns it from the idea in your head that someday we're going to do a thing, but not today because I'm back at work and everything's crazy and on fire, into a concrete plan of action. And we have like 14 minutes for Q&A, guys. So excited. So somewhere we have the microphone box. They were not prepared for me to have. There it is. All right. I've got 2 over here and 1 over here, wherever you want to go.
Whoa.
Are you throwing?
Go far. I'm throwing. No,
Throw it to Jill. Jill will catch it.
Okay, I'll half throw. Ready?
All right.
I really love all the foster groups, or I'm not foster, the volunteer groups, the different areas they can focus on. Could you tell me what the, what was it, the shelter sprinters? What are shelter sprinters?
Shelter sprinters. So we've got a group of folks. You probably think it's like they take dogs out and they go running, but it's not. It's folks that will actually just run animals back and forth to the clinic. So it's just short little runs back and forth to, you know, they could also do for like photography. If you have a photography team set up, sprinters can just kind of run dogs to pictures and back. So not really focused on enrichment, but something that really helps the people who are doing something else stay in the task that they're in. You just want to throw it, I can tell.
Okay, so with the reservation process, how would you handle, because I know in one situation at our shelter, we did have a cat that passed away. I mean, how would you handle that with the public? Because
Yeah. It's important that you're honest and transparent at the beginning of that process, right? And say, we're not sure, we don't have, you know, they haven't got a medical exam yet, they just came in, they need to have spay neuter surgery, we don't really know their personality yet, we haven't got them with another dog, you know, whatever. Telling them that you don't know things at the beginning makes it easier if something does go wrong later. Say, man, turns out that the cat was really sick and it passed away. And then having a process for what happens funding-wise or with that process. So if you have an animal that's a stray and it goes back to the owner, what happens to that commitment, right? Did they pay an adoption fee? Did they sign, like, what's the plan for that? And applying it in the same kind of situation.
Okay, thank you.
We have 2 here, 1 here.
We're hoping to start a dog day out program, and I'm just curious what information you guys gather or require kind of on the front end of that, like before we just hand the dog over to them for the day.
Yeah, I went into my agency and I told my staff we were going to do this, and they all, like, their heads exploded, and they were like, what? It's so much extra work. And now we do like 15 or so a day. We just used our foster paperwork we already had, and that was it. I was like, I'm not making more work for you, I promise, except I'm making more work for you. But it's literally just, here's our foster agreement. We take driver's license copies for everything. I don't know if that's a California thing or a Santa Barbara County thing, but we take driver's licenses for everything. So it's just the same the same process as a traditional foster. And the thing that's really nice is if somebody calls us and says, hey, I'm just going to keep the dog overnight, we already have everything.
So kind of piggybacking off that, so the county shelter that I'm helping right now as part of a separate group, they used to do dog day outings, and then they got some new politicians in. There was, to my knowledge, never an incident prior, and now they want all volunteers to pay out of pocket for a defensive driving course if they're going to be taking dogs out. I know, it's super weird. So I guess what I'm asking is, how would you go about providing data showing that that's not necessary, and that the more dogs that we do get out and have these foster programs would actually benefit the county more?
Yeah, I would email me for my data. And then, and then I would use this study. You can't see it at the bottom. I can barely see it here, but it's called The Influence of Brief Outing and Temporary Fostering Programs on Shelter Dog Welfare, and it's from 2023. And I would use the science, data and science. And then I would kick back to, if it increases adoptability, it decreases our cost. Politicians love to save money. We all love to save money. It's called, I'm like, I don't have my glasses. The Influence of Brief Outing and Temporary Fostering Programs on Shelter Dog Welfare. I should have put that QR code in there.
So we use our social media pretty frequently for marketing different dogs, networking them, and we ask for fosters because we are at a high capacity. Right now we're a very small shelter and we're very high capacity. How do you recruit more fosters? Because we could post about it for months and say we need fosters, we need adopters, and we'll get maybe one who comes in.
Yeah, so Kelly Dewar, who is with Maddie's Fund, I have not seen her, I don't know if she's here this weekend. She did an unofficial study that said that organizations that have highly successful foster programs talk about foster in at least 30% of their social media posts. All of those posts are not, hey, we need fosters. They are, look at this dog in foster. This animal's available for adoption or foster. It's including just foster language all the time and building a culture of foster in your community. Another thing that we've been able to do is actually have county officials foster for us. County employees, county officials. We had one of our county supervisors was on the news talking about fostering. And I go to a lot of the council meetings, the Board of Supervisor meetings, bringing an animal and talking about foster. So if you have a city council or a county board, I encourage you to get volunteers or team staff members yourself there and use public comment time or get things on the agenda about the animal work that you're doing.
I just wanted to add on regarding the foster situation. I have a really excellent Spanish language translator on my team, thankfully, but he always struggles to translate foster into Spanish well. So there may also be a cultural barrier if you are constantly talking about foster, if you don't talk about the fact that it is temporary care for an animal to find out more about it or somehow define it, then you may be limiting the population of people that are actually responding to it because they literally do not know what it means.
That is excellent feedback. And there's a new group that, I can't remember what it's called, Solar, I think it is. Is that what it is? Thank you. Yeah, so Jackie Hernandez started, and there's tons of resources there. And the presentation that she did with Finnegan Dowley yesterday, there's tons of resources that are available. Mutual Aid Rescue is working on an entire, I think it's also in a Google Drive right now, English and Spanish resources that includes a lot of that information. So I encourage you to find that group on Facebook or find Mutual Aid Rescue and their resources.
Do I press this?
Yeah, you have to talk into the box so
Okay.
they pick you up on the recording.
Have you found with fostering, and we're also in Ventura County, next door to you, have you found that a lot of the fosters don't want to stop fostering, but they want to keep the animal because of vet bills, or because of the cost of vet bills?
Yes.
And how do you turn those people around and not have them dump the animal back at the shelter?
So
Or
if
do
the
you?
animal comes back to the shelter, I have to pay all those bills anyway, right? So one of the things, for the last 2 years I've been at this agency, since I started, I haven't cared about that. Now I'm hitting some financial restrictions, some kind of tightening of the belt that's coming in. And what we are looking at doing is setting a dollar limit per animal on things and conveying that to the fosters. The other option is working with like your friends group to help facilitate paying for those things. We're doing fundraising. Austin Pets Alive does a really good job of fundraising for medical cases. And Greater Good Charities also has a program that helps to pay for medical expenses. So there are some resources there. If it's just typical minor things, you know, like, oh, the dog got sick. One of the things that we do is we tell people when an animal is in foster, we can pull it back at any time for an adoption. And if you don't like that idea, you're certainly welcome to adopt it yourself. And setting that expectation up front.
I want to keep it. You can.
Anyway, I thought I saw some other hands. We have like 3 minutes still, you guys. All right, we have one here. I love that there's so many questions.
So the dogs that you send out to foster, are they already available for adoption, fixed, ready to go, or are they kind of both?
Ours is a mix. Pretty much everything that's available, everything that's in our shelter is available for foster.
Okay.
If it's during their stray hold, then we make it very clear that an owner may come forth. They're still available, visible on our website, and we actually have a picture board in our facility as well of animals in foster. So if an owner came looking, they still potentially would be able to find their animal. We don't mandate that they're spayed and neutered before they go to foster. That would clog us up tremendously. We don't have a veterinarian, and so spay neuter is a big barrier for us. And if we were to put that in place, would be very problematic to our capacity.
Yeah, I was just thinking if it ever caused like a mass amount of chaos with like that many dogs out to foster, because we don't have that many dogs out to foster. We're just starting to try to, but we have, 1,000 cats a year, and those appointments alone coming in are, with the general public coming through, it can just get a little chaotic. So I just didn't know if there was, do you have more than one like coordinator running these like
This is
foster
hugely
appointments?
important. I'm so glad you brought this up. I was a foster coordinator for Ventura County for a couple years. And anytime somebody came in, and as soon as the word foster came out of their mouth, the staff went, oh, that's Sarah, go see her.
We have someone like that too.
Right? Like,
yeah.
oh, foster coordinator's not here. So sorry, we can't help you.
Yeah.
And so what I have done ever since I was not a foster coordinator was make the entire team foster coordinators. So anybody on my team can put an animal into foster. Anybody on my team can answer questions from fosters, schedule fosters for appointments, et cetera.
Be applications as well.
We don't have applications.
Oh, no foster applications.
We just have like an information sheet.
Gotcha.
And our front counter just creates the person in the record, just like anyone else. Because I'm not doing home checks, vet checks, reference checks. If you're there, standing in my facility, you're on camera, you're giving me your ID, you're giving me all your information, I'm gonna assume that you are there for the right reasons.
Cool.
All right. We are out of time. I am around, though, until Sunday morning if anybody has questions the rest of the day.